Welcome. This is the Disability Power Series, where we honor our power as disabled people and share our stories. I'm David Gaze, a 2022 Disability Week Fellow. I use he, him pronouns. An image description of me is I'm a white male in my late 30s. I'm wearing a burgundy shirt. I have brown hair, and I'm coming to you from my home office. I'm very happy to be joined by Disability Week member Reveca Torres. Reveca, could you please introduce yourself for us?
Hi, David. Thanks for inviting me to join you. I'm Reveca Torres. I'm in the Chicago area. An image description. I'm a Mexican-American woman with long brown hair, and today I'm wearing a white turtleneck sweater.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. So you're the founder of the nonprofit organization Backbones. Could you please tell us about it and tell us about your organization and what inspired you to create it?
Yeah, the organization is a nonprofit that serves people with spinal cord injuries and other disabilities. It has been operating since 2009. I'm the founder and was inspired to start it because of my own personal experience of being injured in a car accident at the age of 13 and getting to a point after going through rehab and going home where I felt like I didn't have a lot of peer support. I had family and friends that were there for me, but they didn't understand my experience on a personal level. And so the inspiration for this was to be able to provide that support, peer connections for people with disabilities, to be able to find people that they could relate to and that were living that similar disability experience.
And that's really interesting. And going off of that, you say that you say that you began your nonprofit after realizing that years of interaction and friendship of people with others living with spinal cord injuries made a significant impact in your own life. And looking over your Backbones website, much of it seems to me to be devoted to connection and the sharing of personal stories. I was really struck by that from reading your website. Why do you think that sharing our own experiences and that connection, as you emphasize, why is that so important for disabled people? To you?
Well, I think it is important for everybody, regardless of our experience. We find meaning in connecting with people that share a similar experience, have gone through the same things, come from similar backgrounds. And I think that oftentimes our community we can find ourselves feeling really isolated. And because there are a lot of barriers in society for us. But I think that through connection and through sharing stories, people find themselves less isolated. They find themselves creating meaningful friendships. And I think there is a lot of power in us sharing our stories and authentically, and being able to allow people to come into our worlds who maybe whether they connect with us and relate to us, or people where disability is unknown to them, and they can understand a little more by our stories.
And just going off of that, you describe yourself as an artist who uses photography, painting, and other art forms as a tool to promote advocacy and social justice. And you created this beautiful artwork for New Mobility and others. So what does art mean to you as a disabled person? And how do you express and advocate through art? Or how does art play a role in sharing your stories? Feel free to take that where you want it.
Yeah, art has been a big part of my life always since I was a kid. Even before my injury, it was, a way of me expressing myself, whether it was through drawing or through coming up with silly dances or making up plays with my brothers and sisters. Like it's just been a part of me and growing up. And as an adult, that I went to school for art, for fashion design, for theater, and all of those things have helped me develop as a professional artist, but have also helped me um, with Backbones, the nonprofit, because I have found that I used to keep them separate. I used to keep my art stuff
Mm,
separate than my like disability advocacy stuff. And um, it was really when I started bringing the two together, when I started making art and projects that had to do with this storytelling or like telling of our experiences through art. Um, it became a lot more meaningful to me, and I started
mm,
seeing that people reacted and
mm,
would learn something and changed their perspectives on what my experience was like, as well as others with
mm,
disabilities. And um, yeah, that was really important to me. And um, then I stopped being afraid of of merging these two parts of myself, my
mm,
disability advocacy and my art stuff. And
mm,
I think
mm,
now the way that I think about it is that my my art is informed by my experience, right? And the way that I navigate the world, the way that I create art. And so there isn't a way to separate my disability from it. It's
mm,
part of it. It's part of like the way that I make it, and it's a part of the way that I display it and share it with the world. Um,
mm,
and I have found it to be a creative tool, really,
mm,
like in creative lens to bring to my
mm,
work.
mm. Do you have any? That's beautiful. Do you have any artwork you want to share? You were going to share with us today, or you want to describe that related to this?
I don't have any like physical work right now that I can share on the camera, but I have a website that's revecatorres.com. And on there, you will find some photographs that I've taken. Some of the work that I've done is like I've mounted cameras onto my chair, so it's showing a perspective of me from my chair. And one of the series is called Unbound,
Mm,
and it kind of goes off of that phrase where people call us wheelchair bound, right? When
mm-hmm,
they see us in chairs. And so flipping that and really changing people's perceptions of like the wheelchair doesn't doesn't necessarily mean that it's like restraining me or creating barriers, but it's been a tool that I can use to be independent and to have freedom to go out into the world and do the things I want to do. So the photographs will show the camera behind me, and I'm just like in a bunch of different settings that I've traveled or making art or doing yoga or being at a festival. It's just showing my day-to-day life through
mm,
photographs. You'll also
mm,
find some information about a documentary film that I'm making about artists with disabilities. And then you'll also see some paintings that I use acrylic paint and textiles to create some works of art.
mm, mm. Um, Thank you. And getting back to backbones, just that just I'm thinking about what advice would you have for other disabled people who feel called to start a nonprofit? Because I'm really your story is very compelling, like how you saw a need and you felt you felt this need for other disabled people to connect, and you just went for it, and you just started your own nonprofit organization. So take us back to the beginning of Backbones, and what advice would you have for other disabled people who feel called to start a nonprofit of some kind? So.
Be ready for a lot of work. If if you do decide to start a nonprofit, it is a lot of work, but it is like but it has to be something that you're like passionate about and that you really care about and want to make change or to provide a service for people. I came into it without knowing anything about nonprofits or business or budgets or anything. Like I said, my background was in art and theater and painting and fashion, and so like that was my world. And so
Mm,
um I had to do a lot of learning. I didn't have like money to pay a lawyer to set up, um, you know, all the stuff that you need to set up. I just found community resources. I asked people that knew more than me. And so I think it requires a lot of, putting your ego aside too, because like there's a lot that I didn't know. And I had to just go out there and ask questions and ask people to help me. And sometimes they'd say yes, but sometimes they say no. And you move on and you go to the next person who is going to help you
Mm,
figure things
mm,
out.
mm,
But I think my background in theater maybe helped a lot too, because um, just thinking about, in theater, you think of like there's actors, there's directors, there's costume people, there's set people, there's light people. Like it all has to come together to make something, like make a beautiful performance on stage, right? And so
mm,
um thinking about it that way, where like who are the players, who are the people that know more than me that can help me get this off the ground. And I did a lot of
mm, mm,
um informational interviews with people too that had started their own nonprofits. One in particular was Immerman Angels, which is a nonprofit in the Chicago area
mm,
too, that does peer support and peer connections for cancer fighters and survivors. And that was a really like that
mm,
was a model that I used when I started,
mm,
um, where matching people one on one and making those connections.
mm,
The organization has evolved since then, but that was initially the model that I followed, and the founder of that organization was really like helpful, and still continues to be a good friend of mine today, and that I can reach out to when I have questions.
mm. It sounds, the way you describe it, it sounds a lot, frankly, like living with starting a nonprofit. It sounds a lot like living with a disability, like in terms of that networking, that creativity, that that just just stick to itiveness that going for it, I guess, kind of. So,
Yeah, and finding creative ways to do things.
mm, yeah. Um. So among among other things, you're also and this is how I know you. You're you're a you're a traveler extraordinary. You've been to we first met, as you know, on a trip to Costa Rica way back in 2007 with Mobility International USA. So I'll always think of you as a traveler and an explorer. That's how I think you
That
personally.
is how
So
I think of you too. Every time I think of you, I think of us in Costa Rica just having fun in the rainforest.
that was a yeah, that was such a beautiful experience. With and something I'll never forget. I never thought going to Costa Rica was possible. My kind of disability. But what advice do you have? What do you like most about traveling? And what advice do you have for disabled people that want to travel and experience new places? So,
Well, I think it could be scary, right? And especially as people with disabilities, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things that we can expect to go wrong all the time. But um, I think what has kept me motivated to continue to travel, like I love just learning. I love learning. I love meeting new people. I love eating food and just like experiencing all of the things, like music, food, cultures. Um, and that's sort of like the way that I see travel when I do it for fun. When
mm,
when I have to do work stuff, obviously it's different, but when I do it for fun, it's that's the type of experience that I like to have. Um, but I am always thinking ahead, I think. Like I'll think 20 steps ahead, right? What am I going to
mm,
need to at the airport, and what are the things that I'm going to need to pack? What if this goes wrong? Do I have a backup? Do I have all my medical supplies? Who is the person that I want to travel with, right? That's very important too, because we have different caregivers or different people that could accompany you, but depending on the trip you're going, you might want to go with someone who's more flexible if you're going to be doing some adventure stuff, or maybe you need someone that's really organized to help you get transportation done and all of that. So it really does come down to a lot of preparing, and sometimes that can feel daunting, but I think it pays off in the end when you just have a really wonderful experience. And sometimes when the things go wrong, that's not always a bad thing. Like some really good stuff can come from moments where something went wrong and you had to find another solution, and the experience turned into something different that was that could be positive, or you learned something from it, and don't do it that way the next time.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of your favorite places that you've traveled, that you've been to?
I would have to say Costa Rica was one of them, and I have been ever since that trip. I've wanted to go back again, and just experience it as well, on my own. But yeah, Costa Rica. I've been to Paris. I've been to England. I was most recently in Nice, France, and Germany.
Wow.
And I go to Mexico often. My family's in Mexico. But yeah, in a lot of places here in the US, like that I've been to as well.
And you also you do so many things. You serve as you're a writer for No Mobility, and I really appreciate your writing on your thoughts in the pandemic. And you write very personal essays on new mobility. I encourage people to check that out. And how does where you share about, you've written about the pandemic and death, and every story, I found that really interesting in doing the research. Every story you share a piece of artwork with your writing. And how does your writing and how does your writing in no mobility empower you as a disabled person? Or
Yeah, that has been a really fun experience. When they asked me to begin to contribute to that, I really have enjoyed doing that because they're short pieces and they're short reflections on a different topic, and I'm able to share artwork, like you said. And that feels nice to me because that's like the way that I communicate, or the way that I like to express myself, is through art. And so being able to do that in a like visual way, but also be able to write a little bit about that, like what it means to me and what the message I'm trying to share. But it has really, the column was called Reframed. So every time that I wrote something, I really thought about, how do I want to think about this thing that has, whatever the topic is, like this topic that's been on my mind, like how do I want to take a different look or different perspective of that topic. And that's sort of how I approached writing it. But it's also been a inspiration for me to, like, it's been motivating me to want to write a book too. And I know, people always tell you, like, as a disabled person, able-bodied people are always like, oh, you should write a book about your story. And like, oh no, I shouldn't write a book about my story. But writing these like short pieces has made me want to write a book, not necessarily about like my biography or my life, but these little short excerpts of experiences that we have. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're ridiculous, sometimes they're hard to think about. They can be painful, they can be raw, they can be authentic, but like I want to explore that a little more. Maybe writing like a book of essays, whether it's just my own or like curate other
wow.
disabled people. So one day.
Oh, so you haven't started that yet?
I have not started that yet, but it's been on my mind, and it's something that I hope to do in the future. So to
as a disabled lead as a disabled leader, and somebody I think really exemplifies disability leadership. What would you say? Why is disability lead important to you? And what does disability leadership mean to you? Why is disability leadership so important?
Yeah, Disability Lead is just created an amazing network of leaders in Chicago with disabilities. And I think it was so needed, this like network of people that then can come together and they can share experiences and learn from one another. And I think that's amazing and a great model to hopefully repeat in other cities. But I think leadership is something that I think about a lot because our community has so many skills, so many experiences that that we can share with the world and whatever level we want to. And currently with Backbones, we also have a leaders program that we've been running since 2020, where we help people that participate in this program learn different skills so that they can become leaders in whatever capacity they want in the community. And so we've had some people, from that program that have gone on to, get more involved in policy, to write a book, or, share their stories on podcasts, or be motivated to get an internship or to get a job. And so, and that's a lot of different levels of really getting motivated and getting out in the community, and just by being, showing some leadership and being out there. But I think we need our community out there in every level of society, whether it's at your place of employment, or city council, or the school board, or whatever leadership can look like to you, or whatever step that people can take to just share our experience and to have a voice, I think is just important and needs to happen more often. And the fact that like a program like our Backbones program, or Disability Lead, or others that are empowering people to get to those places and to really feel confident that they can fill leadership roles and be at the table, as they say, that's important. We need that.
That's wonderful. So to conclude, my last question is, what keeps you going in your work as a disabled person? What gives you power and hope moving forward as a disabled woman, as a disabled person?
Things like this, like talking to you, talking to other people that are in my community, that sometimes this can be really tiring and exhausting and frustrating work. And you definitely get to points where you burn out, or you just feel disheartened by things that are happening in the world. And just talking to people and being like, hey, we're still here, we're still here for one another, I think that helps a lot. And it keeps me going, and hearing from people, people asking you, how are you doing? Or people saying, thank you for doing this. Like, just those little simple acts of like kindness and reminders are uplifting and help me keep going.
Yeah, for me too. I'm always reminded of how resilient we are, and how, as disabled people, and how creative. We're very good at problem solving in a world that's not always designed for us or made for us.
Yeah, agreed.
So, thank you. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Is there anything else you wish to add or say?
Not that I can think of. These are all great questions and a fun conversation to have with you.
Oh,
thank you.
Likewise, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, Reveca. It's really great to talk to you.
You too. Thank you.